The Texas sun burned low over Fort Hood, casting long shadows across the Memorial Plaza. Captain Marcus Brennan stood alone before the Wall of Honor. His hand trembled as it reached toward the engraved name. Sergeant David Chen, killed in action, Fallujah, 2004. 20 years had passed since that day. 20 years since Brennan had held a dying man in his arms. 20 years since he had made a promise he still struggled to keep. The memorial wall reflected his face back at him, 58 years old. Deep lines carved by desert sand and harder truths. Gray stubble on a jaw that had once been sharp. Eyes that had seen too much and revealed too little. Behind him, the parade ground stretched empty. The flags snapped in the evening wind. Somewhere across the base, young soldiers ran their evening PT. Their voices carried faint and distant. The eternal rhythm of the Army continued without pause. It always had. It always would. Brennan pulled his hand back from the wall. The stone felt warm from the day's heat. Soon it would be cool. Soon the sun would set. Soon another day would end. He turned away. The drive to the VA hospital took 30 minutes. Brennan made it every Thursday evening. Same route, same time. Same building with its same sterile smell of disinfectant and resignation. The oncology ward occupied the third floor. Brennan knew every nurse by name. They knew him too. Captain Brennan, always polite, always punctual, never complained. Dr. Sarah Mitchell waited in her office. She was younger than Brennan by a decade, competent, direct. She did not waste time on false comfort. Brennan sat in the chair across from her desk. The vinyl squeaked under his weight. Through the window behind her, the parking lot stretched out in neat rows. Everything in the Army was neat rows. Mitchell opened a folder. She did not need to look at it. She already knew what it said. Your latest scans show progression, she said. Brennan nodded. He had expected this. Stage 3 is now confirmed. The words hung in the air. Stage 3, the number that separated hope from mathematics. How long? Mitchell met his eyes with quiet honesty. 6 months, maybe 12 with aggressive treatment. 6 months, 180 days. And if I stop treatment? Mitchell's expression did not change. 3 to 4 months, maybe less. Brennan leaned back. The vinyl squeaked. Outside, a car alarm chirped. Life continued. I need to deploy, he said. Mitchell's eyebrows rose. This she had not expected. Captain, you're in no condition to deploy anywhere. You need aggressive treatment. You need rest. You need to retire. I need to finish something first. What could possibly be worth dying for? Brennan looked at his hands. They were scarred from years of working on tank engines, burned from hot brass, calloused from hard use. Everything, he said quietly. Mitchell studied him for a long moment. She had worked with enough soldiers to recognize when argument was futile. If you deploy, you'll die over there. You understand that? I understand. And you're going anyway? Yes, ma'am. She closed the folder. The sound was final, absolute. Then I can't help you, but I won't report you either. What you do with your time is your choice. Brennan stood. His knees ached. Everything ached these days. Thank you, doctor. Don't thank me, Captain. Just don't die alone. The drive home took him through Killeen, strip malls and chain restaurants, the infrastructure of military life. His house sat in a quiet neighborhood, modest. The lawn needed mowing. Sarah was in the kitchen, his wife of 34 years, still beautiful, still strong despite everything. She looked up from the cutting board where she was preparing dinner. How was the appointment? Brennan set his keys on the counter. Fine. Sarah's hands stilled on the knife. She knew that tone, knew what it meant. Marcus, he could not meet her eyes. It's progressing. The knife clattered onto the cutting board. Sarah gripped the counter's edge. Her knuckles went white. How much time? 6 months. The number fell between them like a stone into still water. Ripples spread outward. Everything changed. Sarah closed her eyes. When she opened them again, tears tracked down her cheeks. But her voice remained steady. Then you'll retire. We'll spend it together. We'll travel. We'll see Amanda and Michael. We'll live what's left. Brennan finally looked at her. At this woman who had waded through deployments, who had raised their children when he was gone, who had forgiven him once before. I got orders today, he said. Sarah's face went very still. Orders. Latvia, NATO training mission, 8 weeks. You're not going. I have to. You're dying, Marcus. You're dying and you want to spend your last months in a foreign country instead of with your family? There's something I need to do first. What could possibly matter more than us? Brennan reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a folded piece of paper. Personnel assignment sheet. He laid it on the counter between them. Sarah picked it up. Read the names. Her eyes widened as she reached the bottom of the list. Private First Class Tyler Chen Morrison. She looked up at Brennan. Understanding dawned like a terrible sunrise. Kosovo, she whispered. Brennan nodded. The affair had happened 25 years ago, when their marriage was fracturing under the weight of his second Iraq deployment, when Sarah had asked for a separation, when Brennan had been sent to Kosovo as part of the peacekeeping force. Her name had been Adelina, a translator for the NATO mission. Beautiful, kind, lost like he was lost. 3 months. That was all it had lasted. Then Brennan had come home. He and Sarah had reconciled. They had rebuilt what was broken. They had never spoken of it again. Until now. You have a son, Sarah said. The words were flat, emotionless. I didn't know. Not until 3 years ago when his mother died. The adoption agency contacted me, asked if I wanted to establish paternity. I said no. Why? Because we were whole again. Because I was a coward. Because I couldn't face what I'd done. Sarah's hands shook as she set the paper down. And now he's been assigned to your crew. Yes. Does he know? No, his birth certificate lists the father as unknown. But his mother left him a letter, described an American soldier, Kosovo, 1999. He's been searching. Sarah turned away. She gripped the sink's edge. Her shoulders shook with silent sobs. Brennan wanted to reach for her, wanted to hold her, but he had forfeited that right 25 years ago. I need to tell him, Brennan said. I need to give him answers before I die. I need to make one thing right. Sarah did not turn around. Then go. Do what you need to do. But don't expect me to be here when you get back. Sarah, get out, please, just get out. Brennan left the kitchen, left his wife crying at the sink, left everything he had built over 3 decades. In the living room, photos lined the mantel. Amanda in her Air Force dress uniform, Michael at his college graduation, the 2 children he had raised, the family he had built, and somewhere out there a 3rd child, a son who did not know his father's name. Brennan picked up his phone, scrolled through his contacts, found Amanda's number. She answered on the 2nd ring. Hey, Dad. Her voice was warm, steady. She had inherited his strength and Sarah's grace. Hey, sweetheart, got a minute? Always, what's up? Brennan sat on the couch. The same couch where he had taught her to tie her shoes, where he had helped Michael with homework, where life had happened in all its mundane beauty. I need to tell you something. The warmth in Amanda's voice shifted to concern. Dad, what's wrong? I'm deploying to Latvia. 8-week training mission. Silence on the line. Then carefully. Aren't you supposed to retire this year? Yes. Then why are you deploying? Brennan looked at the photos on the mantel, at the life he had built, at the lie he had maintained. Because I have a son I've never met, and he's been assigned to my crew. The silence that followed was absolute. Dad? Kosovo, 1999. When your mother and I were separated, I had an affair. The woman got pregnant. I didn't know until 3 years ago. Amanda's breathing came harsh through the phone. You have another son? Yes. Does Mom know? I just told her. Oh my God, Dad, what have you done? Brennan closed his eyes, the question he had asked himself for 25 years. I don't know, Amanda. I don't know. Does this boy know you're his father? Not yet. Are you going to tell him? I have to. Why now? Why after all this time? Brennan opened his eyes, looked at his hands, at the scars and calluses. Because I'm dying. I have 6 months. And I need to make this right before I go. The sound that came through the phone was half sob, half laugh. You're dying? You're dying and the first thing you do is deploy to a foreign country to meet some kid you abandoned? He's your brother. He's a stranger. We're your family. Michael and I. We're the ones who grew up with you, who waited for you, who loved you, and you're going to spend your last months with him instead of us. I have to, Amanda. I have to finish this. Then finish it. But don't call me when you come home. If you come home. The line went dead. Brennan sat in the silence of his living room. Outside, the sun had fully set. The house was dark except for the kitchen light behind him. His phone buzzed. A text from Michael. Amanda called. Is it true? Brennan typed slowly. His thumbs felt thick on the small keyboard. Yes. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then, I need time to process this. I understand. No response came. Brennan set the phone down, picked up the remote, turned on the television. Some sitcom played. Canned laughter filled the empty room. He did not watch it. He stared at the photos on the mantel until his vision blurred. Then he went upstairs, packed his duffel bag, set his uniform out for the morning. Tomorrow he would meet his crew. Tomorrow he would see the son he had abandoned. Tomorrow everything would change. But tonight Alone in the house he might never return to, Marcus Brennan allowed himself to weep. The motor pool at Fort Hood came alive before dawn. Diesel engines coughed to life in the cold morning air. Soldiers moved with practiced efficiency. Coffee steamed from paper cups. Breath misted in the chill. Brennan stood beside his assigned M1A2 SCPV-3 Abrams tank. The beast weighed 70 tons. Its 120-meter smoothbore cannon pointed toward the rising sun. Composite armor plates reflected the orange light. The tank designation was painted on the turret. Charlie 26, his command for the next 8 weeks. The maintenance crew had prepped it overnight. Fresh paint covered old scars. New track blocks replaced worn ones. The engine purred like a satisfied predator. Brennan ran his hand along the turret. The metal was cold. Soon it would warm under the Texas sun. Then it would bake, just like every tank he had ever commanded. "Sir," Brennan turned. A young soldier approached, late 20s, lean and coiled like a spring. Eyes that had seen combat and not forgotten. Staff Sergeant Morrison reporting as assigned. Brennan studied his new gunner, Jake Morrison, Bronze Star with Valor. 3 Iraq tours, excellent performance reviews. But something else lurked behind those eyes. Something dark and restless. "At ease, Sergeant." Morrison relaxed fractionally. His gaze flicked to the tank, to the cannon, to the sight systems. "Beautiful machine," Morrison said. SCP-3 upgrade. Crows 2 remote weapon station. Trophy active protection system. This is what we should have had in Fallujah. "You served in Fallujah?" "Second battle. 2004, house to house. Lost a lot of friends there." The same year David Chen had died. The same city, perhaps the same streets. "I was there too," Brennan said quietly. Morrison's eyes sharpened with sudden interest. "What unit?" "1st Cav, 2nd Brigade. I was with the Marines, 1st Battalion, 8th Marines. We worked with Army armor on the east side." They stood in silence, 2 men bound by geography and grief, by streets they could not forget and faces that haunted their sleep. "Specialist Chen should be here any minute," Morrison said, breaking the moment. "Our loader, good soldier, smart, maybe too smart for her own good. And our driver?" Morrison's expression shifted. Something complicated passed across his face. "PFC Brooks, new transfer. Just finished training at Fort Benning last month." "Green?" "Very, but he can drive. I'll give him that. Kid has instincts." Footsteps approached from behind. Brennan turned. A young woman in ACUs walked toward them. Asian features, confident stride. She carried herself like someone who had something to prove. "Specialist Emma Chen reporting as assigned, sir." Brennan felt his heart constrict. The resemblance was unmistakable. The same shape to her eyes, the same set to her jaw. David Chen's daughter, the girl he had promised to watch over. "At ease, Specialist." Emma relaxed. Her gaze moved past Brennan to the tank. Wonder lit her face. "I've been reading about the SCPV-3 upgrades. The common remotely operated weapon station is incredible. And the auxiliary power unit means we can run all the electronics without the main engine. The fuel efficiency alone—" "Breathe, Chen," Morrison said with a slight smile. "Save some enthusiasm for the actual work." Emma flushed but grinned. "Sorry, Sergeant, I just love this stuff." "Your father would be proud," Brennan said quietly. Emma's smile faded. She looked at Brennan with sudden intensity. "You knew my dad?" "He was in my platoon, Fallujah. He died saving his crew when their Bradley took an RPG." Emma's eyes glistened. She blinked rapidly. "Everyone says that he died a hero, but nobody ever tells me what he was like. As a person, as a man." Brennan saw David Chen in his mind. Young, laughing, always talking about his daughter, always showing photos, always planning what they would do when he got home. "He talked about you constantly," Brennan said. "Had your picture taped inside his helmet. Used to say you were going to be an engineer, build bridges, connect things." Emma wiped her eyes. "I became a soldier instead, to honor him." "You honor him by being here, by being good at what you do, by living." A diesel engine roared to life nearby. The moment broke. Emma straightened, composed herself. "Thank you, sir. That means a lot." "Where's our driver?" Morrison asked, looking around. As if summoned by the question, a figure emerged from between 2 tanks. Young, maybe 22, dark hair, lean build. He moved with an economy that suggested athletic grace. Brennan's world tilted. The young man had his eyes, the same steel gray, the same intensity, but the rest of him belonged to Adelina. High cheekbones, olive skin, the ghost of a woman Brennan had loved and left. PFC Tyler Chen Morrison reporting as assigned, sir. The voice was clear. American accent, no trace of Kosovo in his speech. He had been raised here, adopted into Morrison's family after his mother died. But his eyes, God help him, his eyes were Brennan's own, staring back at him across 22 years. Brennan forced himself to speak normally. At ease, Private? Tyler relaxed, but his gaze never left Brennan's face. Something flickered there. Recognition. Question. The same searching look Brennan saw in his mirror. Morrison stepped forward. Tyler's my cousin, he said. Well, adopted cousin. My aunt took him in when his mother passed. Kid can drive anything. Saw him put a Humvee through an obstacle course blindfolded. Not quite blindfolded, Tyler said with a slight smile, but his eyes remained locked on Brennan. Emma moved closer to Tyler, extended her hand. Emma Chen, I'm your loader. Tyler shook her hand. Chen, any relation to Jake? No, my father was David Chen, killed in Fallujah. Tyler's expression softened. I'm sorry, that's rough. It was a long time ago, but thank you. Morrison clapped his hands together. All right, we've got 3 weeks to train before we deploy to Latvia. Captain, what's the plan? Brennan forced himself to look away from Tyler, to focus on the mission, on the tank, on anything but the son he had abandoned. We'll run basic drills this week, gunnery fundamentals, communications protocols. Next week, we integrate with the other platoons. Week 3 is live fire qualification. We deploy week 4. 8 weeks in Latvia doing what exactly? Emma asked. NATO Forward Presence Mission, training multinational brigade elements. Working with Danish, Polish, and Canadian forces, standard deterrence operations. Deterrence, Tyler said quietly. The word held skepticism. Brennan looked at him. At this young man who did not know his father, who had grown up searching for answers, who stood 3 feet away from the truth. You have a problem with the mission, Private? Tyler met his gaze steadily. No, sir, just wondering why they're sending a captain who's about to retire to train NATO forces. Morrison shot Tyler a warning look. Emma tensed, but Brennan just nodded. Fair question. I'm going because I have experience they need, because I've commanded tanks in actual combat, because the mission requires someone who knows what they're doing. And because you have something to prove? The words hung in the air. Dangerous, insubordinate, but also true. We all have something to prove, Private. The question is whether we prove it or die trying. Mount up. Let's see if you can actually drive this thing. The crew climbed aboard. Morrison settled into the gunner's station on the right side of the turret. Emma took her position behind and to the left. Tyler dropped into the driver's hole up front. Brennan climbed into the commander's cupola. The familiar seat embraced him. He had sat in this position for 20 years, through deserts and mountains, through training and combat, through victory and loss. He put on his CVC helmet. The integrated communication system crackled to life. Comms check, Morrison. Good copy, sir. Chen? 5 by 5, Captain. Brooks? A pause. Then Tyler's voice, careful and controlled, reading you loud and clear. Something in Tyler's tone suggested he meant more than just the radio signal. Driver, start engine, Brennan commanded. Tyler's hands moved across the controls. The Honeywell AGT 1500 turbine engine whined to life. 1,500 horsepower. The sound was a controlled shriek that built to a roar. The tank trembled beneath them. 70 tons of steel and composite armor. A weapon system that could kill at 3 miles. A fortress that could withstand most anything the enemy could throw at it. Except time. Except cancer. Except the weight of sins that could not be armored against. Driver, move out, Brennan ordered. The tank lurched forward. Tyler's driving was smooth, natural. He navigated between other vehicles with the confidence of someone who had been born to this. They rolled out of the motor pool into the tank trail that led to the gunnery ranges. The Texas landscape stretched flat and brown under the morning sun. Brennan watched Tyler drive, watched his son, though Tyler did not know it yet, watched the young man who carried half of Brennan's DNA and all of his mother's grace. Emma's voice came over the intercom. Sir, permission to ask a question? Go ahead, specialist. You look like you've seen a ghost. Brennan closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, Tyler was looking back at him through the driver's periscope. Those gray eyes, those impossible damning eyes. Maybe I have, Chen. Maybe I have. They spent the morning on the range. Basic gunnery drills. Morrison proved everything his record claimed. Fast, accurate, deadly. He could acquire and engage targets faster than anyone Brennan had seen. But there was something mechanical about it. Something disconnected. Morrison killed targets the way other men filed paperwork. Efficiently. Without emotion. Without presence. Emma handled the loading with practiced efficiency. She knew the ammunition types. knew the procedures, knew her role, and executed it flawlessly. But she watched Brennan constantly, looking for something, some connection to her father, some validation that her service mattered. Tyler drove like he was born in a tank. He anticipated terrain, read the ground, positioned them perfectly for each engagement without being told. But between drills, when they idled and waited for the next target sequence, Tyler would turn and look at Brennan, study him, search his face for something unnamed. By noon, they had run through the qualification course twice. Both runs were excellent. The crew worked well together, despite being newly formed. They broke for lunch at a staging area near the range, MREs and water. The crew dismounted and found shade under the tank's bulk. Morrison ate quickly, mechanically, then stood and walked away. He pulled out a pack of cigarettes, lit one despite the no smoking signs, stood alone, staring at nothing. Emma watched him go. She looked at Brennan. He does that a lot, goes away even when he's here. He'll come back when he's ready. Does he? Come back? Brennan thought about the look in Morrison's eyes, the darkness there, the weight of Fallujah. I don't know yet. Tyler sat with his back against the track. He had pulled out a worn photograph, edges creased, colors faded. He stared at it with an expression Brennan recognized. Longing, loss, the ache of missing someone who would never return. Your mother? Brennan asked quietly. Tyler looked up, startled. He hesitated, then nodded. Adelina Morrison. Well, she went by Morrison after my adopted family took me in, but her real name was Adelina Krasnicki. The name hit Brennan like a fist. Adelina, the woman he had loved for 3 months, the woman he had left behind, the woman who had died alone with his secret in her heart. May I? Tyler handed over the photo. Brennan's hands shook as he took it. She smiled up at him from 2 decades past. Beautiful, radiant. The same smile she had given him that last day in Pristina when he told her he was going home, that he was reconciling with his wife, that what they had was over. She had not cried, had just smiled, had touched his face and said she understood, had never told him she was pregnant. She's beautiful, Brennan managed. She was, died 3 years ago, cancer. By the time they found it, it was everywhere. The same disease killing Brennan now. The same ending waiting for him. I'm sorry. Tyler took the photo back, stared at it with fierce intensity. She left me a letter, to be opened after she died, told me about my father, American soldier, Kosovo peacekeeping mission. 1999, tall, gray eyes, tank commander. She never told him about me, wanted to protect him, protect his family. Brennan's throat closed. He could not speak, could not breathe. Tyler looked up at him, into him, through him. I've been searching, going through deployment records, finding soldiers who matched the description, who were in Kosovo at the right time, who commanded tanks. And, Brennan forced the word out. And I keep coming back to you, sir. Same unit, same time frame, same specialty, and those eyes. Brennan stood abruptly. He walked away, put distance between himself and the truth that wanted to tear free. But Tyler followed, persistent, determined. Sir, I need to know. Did you know her? Adelina Krasnicki. Did you know my mother? Brennan turned, faced his son, faced the moment he had dreaded and desired in equal measure. Yes, he said quietly. I knew her. Tyler went very still. His face paled, his hands clenched at his sides. How well? The question hung between them. Loaded, dangerous. The fulcrum on which everything would turn. Tyler! How? Well. Brennan closed his eyes, opened them, looked at his son. Very well, for 3 months, before I went home to my wife. Tyler stumbled back as if struck. His breathing came harsh and fast. You're him. You're my father. I didn't know about you. Not until 3 years ago. Not until after she died. You knew her name. You knew what unit you were with. You could have found us, could have checked, could have cared enough to look. You're right, I should have, but I was a coward. Tyler's face twisted with rage, with betrayal, with the anguish of 22 years of not knowing. My whole life I wondered, who was he? Where was he? Why didn't he want me? And you were here, in the same army, in the same fucking country, and you never came. Tyler? Don't say my name like you have the right. You have no rights. You're nothing to me. Morrison and Emma had come closer, drawn by Ray's voices. They stood at a distance, watching, uncertain. Brennan wanted to reach for Tyler, wanted to explain, wanted to make 22 years of absence mean something other than abandonment. But Tyler backed away, shaking his head, Eyes bright with tears, he refused to shed. I'm requesting a transfer. I won't serve under you. I won't be in the same vehicle. I won't breathe the same air. He turned and walked away, across the range, into the heat shimmer, a lone figure carrying the weight of rejection that had defined his entire life. Morrison approached Brennan. His expression was hard. Is it true you're Tyler's father? Brennan could not lie, not anymore. Yes. Morrison's jaw clenched. A muscle jumped in his cheek. He's family, the only family I have left besides my daughter. And you abandoned him, left him to wonder, left him to hurt. I know. Do you? Do you really know what it's like to grow up without a father? To search every crowd for a face that might be yours? To wonder what you did wrong that made him leave? The questions cut deep, drew blood from old wounds. Emma stepped forward. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady. We deploy in 3 weeks. Tyler needs time, we all do, but we're still a crew. We still have a mission. Morrison rounded on her. Mission? The mission is nothing. This is about family, about betrayal. The mission is everything, Emma said quietly. It's what my father died for. It's what Tyler joined for. It's what we serve for. Personal problems don't override duty. Morrison stared at her, then at Brennan, then at Tyler's distant figure. You're both wrong, but I'll stay for Tyler, not for him. He walked away, lit another cigarette, stood with his back to them all. Emma looked at Brennan. Her expression was unreadable. You should have told him before. You should have been honest. I know. My father always said honesty was the foundation of a good crew. That trust was everything. Your father was right. Then earn it back, however long it takes. Earn back the trust you broke. She walked toward Morrison, left Brennan standing alone on the range. The sun beat down. The wind carried dust. Somewhere a target popped up and down on its pneumatic hinge. Training continued despite personal catastrophe. The army marched on. Brennan looked toward Tyler. The young man sat on the ground far from the others, head in his hands, shoulders shaking. 22 years of questions answered in the worst possible way. 22 years of searching ended in betrayal. Brennan's phone buzzed. A text from Colonel Patterson. Deploy brief 0800 tomorrow. Final crew assignments. Be ready. Brennan typed back a single word. Roger. But nothing was ready. Everything was broken. And in 3 weeks, they would deploy to Latvia. 4 people bound by secrets and sins. 4 people who could barely look at each other. 4 people who would have to trust each other with their lives. Brennan looked at his hands, at the scars, at the evidence of a life spent serving. But what good was service if he could not serve the people who mattered most? He had no answer. Only the weight of failure. Only the knowledge that some sins could not be redeemed. Only the hope that somewhere in the next 8 weeks, he might find a way to make things right before he ran out of time. The sun moved towards the horizon. Shadows lengthened. The day died slowly. And Marcus Brennan stood in the ruins of his own making, watching his son weep for the father he had finally found and already lost. The briefing room at Fort Hood was cold despite the Texas heat outside. Air conditioning hummed through overhead vents. Fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across rows of metal chairs. Brennan arrived early. The room was empty except for the podium at the front and the projection screen behind it. Maps of Latvia hung on the walls. Satellite imagery of the Adagi military base. Forced disposition charts showing NATO unit locations. He took a seat in the back row. Old habit. Always position yourself where you can see the exits, where you can assess threats, where you can run if needed. But there was no running from this. The door opened. Emma entered. She saw Brennan and hesitated, then walked over and sat 2 chairs away. Close enough to acknowledge his presence, far enough to maintain distance. Did you sleep last night? She asked quietly. No, you? No. They sat in silence, 2 people bound by dead men and broken promises. My father wrote me letters, Emma said. Every week he was deployed, told me about his day, about his crew, about the people he served with. He mentioned you a lot. Brennan closed his eyes. David Chen, always writing, always documenting, always trying to hold on to home from 5,000 miles away. What did he say? That you were hard but fair, that you pushed everyone to be better. That when things got bad, you were the one who stayed calm, the one who made the right calls. I didn't make the right call the day he died. Emma turned to look at him. Her eyes were David Chen's eyes, dark and intense and missing nothing. He died saving his crew. The Bradley took an RPG. The fuel tank ignited. He could have bailed out, could have saved himself, but there were 2 privates trapped in the back. He went back in, got them out, died from his burns 3 days later. Brennan remembered the hospital ward in Baghdad. David Chen wrapped in bandages, skin burned beyond recognition, but still conscious, still talking. Take care of her, David had whispered through damaged lungs. Emma, take care of her. Make sure she knows I loved her. Make sure she knows it mattered. Brennan had promised, had gone home and visited Emma and her mother, had attended the funeral, had watched a 10-year-old girl bury her father. But then the years had passed. The visits became less frequent. Life continued. Distance grew. I'm sorry, Brennan said. I promised your father I would watch over you. I failed that too. You didn't fail. You showed up when it mattered. At the funeral, when Mom was struggling, when I needed advice about joining the army, you were there. But not enough, never enough. Maybe enough is all we can do. Maybe perfect is too much to ask. The door opened again. Morrison entered. He looked worse than yesterday. Eyes red, jaw clenched. He moved like a man carrying invisible weight. He saw them and stopped. Considered turning around, then shook his head and took a seat on the opposite side of the room. Emma stood, walked to Morris and sat beside him. Talk to me, she said. Nothing to talk about. Jake, look at me. Morrison met her eyes with visible effort. I'm fine. You're not fine. You haven't been fine since Fallujah. And now this thing with Tyler is making it worse. Morrison's hands clenched into fists on his thighs. Tyler is family, the only real family I have. My aunt took him in when his mother died, raised him like her own, made him part of us. And now I find out the captain over there is his biological father, the man who abandoned him, who let him grow up wondering, who caused all that pain. Tyler's an adult. He can handle this. Can he? Can any of us handle this? We're supposed to deploy as a crew, trust each other with our lives. But our commander is a liar who abandoned his own kid. Your commander is dying, Emma said quietly. He has terminal cancer, 6 months maybe, and he's trying to make things right before he goes. Morrison's head snapped toward her. Shock broke through his anger. What? I figured it out yesterday. The way he moves, the pain in his eyes, the weight loss. I've seen it before. My grandmother had lymphoma, looked exactly the same. Morrison stared across the room at Brennan, at the older man sitting alone in the back row. He's dying and he's deploying? He's dying and trying to be a father, even if it's too late. The door burst open. Tyler entered. He looked like he had not slept. His uniform was wrinkled. His eyes were shadowed, but his jaw was set with determination. He saw Brennan and stopped. Their eyes met across the briefing room, father and son, strangers bound by blood and nothing else. Tyler walked to the front row, sat as far from Brennan as the room allowed. More soldiers filtered in, other crews deploying to Latvia. The room filled with quiet conversation. Colonel Patterson entered last. Tall, graying, he carried himself with the authority of someone who had commanded under fire. Everyone stood at attention. Patterson waved them down. He moved to the podium, maps lit up on the screen behind him. Gentlemen and ladies, welcome to the deployment brief for Operation Baltic Guardian. 8 weeks. Latvia, training NATO forces, standard deterrence posture. Questions before we begin? No hands rose. Everyone knew the questions came after the brief. Never before. Good. Here's the situation. Russian Federation has been running exercises along the Estonian and Latvian borders for the past 6 months, larger in scope and scale than previous years. Their movements suggest probing for weaknesses, testing response times, evaluating NATO readiness. Patterson clicked to the next slide. Russian force disposition, tank battalions, mechanized infantry, artillery groups. Our mission is twofold. 1, train multinational NATO forces to operate as integrated units. Danish Leopard 2A 70Ks, Polish PT-91s, Canadian LAV 3s, all need to work together. 2, demonstrate that NATO armor is present, capable, and ready to respond. He clicked again. Adagi military base appeared. Training ranges, barracks, support facilities. You'll be based here. State-of-the-art training facility, live fire ranges, urban warfare mock-ups, combined arms maneuver areas, everything you need to run realistic scenarios. Another click. Training schedule appeared. Dense, aggressive, demanding. Week 1 is integration. Get to know your NATO counterparts. Establish communications protocols. Run basic maneuvers. Week 2 is escalation. Combined arms exercises, live fire, night operations. Week 3 is evaluation. Full-scale brigade-level exercise with observers from Sassur. Someone raised a hand. Lieutenant from another crew. Sir, what's the threat assessment? Are we expecting contact? Patterson's expression hardened. The threat is real but contained. Russian forces are conducting exercises. We're conducting exercises. Everyone is playing their part. However, intelligence suggests there have been attempts at infiltration, cyber attacks on NATO systems, physical penetration of secure facilities. We believe there may be one or more Russian intelligence assets operating in theater. The room shifted. This was not standard training. All personnel will be subject to enhanced security screening. Communications will be monitored. Any suspicious activity will be reported immediately. We're not looking to start a war, people. We're looking to prevent one. Questions? Dozens of hands shot up. Patterson pointed to Morrison. Staff Sergeant Morrison, go ahead. Morrison stood. His voice was steady, despite everything churning beneath the surface. Sir, what's our rules of engagement if we encounter Russian forces? Row is defensive only. You will not fire unless fired upon. You will not cross international borders. You will not engage in provocative maneuvers. But if attacked, you will defend yourselves and your allies with appropriate force. Clear? Clear, sir. Morrison sat. Patterson continued through more questions. Logistics, equipment, support elements, medical evacuation procedures. Brennan listened with half his attention. The other half watched Tyler in the front row. Watched his son's shoulders tense whenever Patterson mentioned potential contact. Watched him process the reality that this deployment might involve actual combat. The brief concluded after an hour. Patterson dismissed everyone except the crew commanders. They gathered around the podium for final guidance. Gentlemen, Patterson said quietly, some of you I know, some of you I'm meeting for the first time, but all of you were chosen for this mission because you have something the others don't. Experience, judgment, the ability to think under pressure. NATO needs that right now. He looked at each commander in turn. His gaze lingered on Brennan. Captain Brennan, a word. The others filed out. Brennan approached the podium. Patterson waited until the door closed before speaking. I know about your medical situation. Brennan's stomach dropped. He said nothing. Dr. Mitchell didn't tell me, but I have friends in the VA system. Friends who know when soldiers are lying on their deployment physicals. You're dying, Marcus. Why are you here? Brennan met Patterson's eyes, saw no judgment there. Just curiosity. And perhaps understanding. Because I have unfinished business. With your crew? With my son. Patterson nodded slowly. Tyler Brooks, I saw his file. Does he know? As of yesterday. And? He hates me, as he should. Patterson leaned against the podium. Suddenly he looked older. I have 3 kids. 2 boys and a girl. I've missed birthdays, graduations, all for the mission. Sometimes I wonder if the trade was worth it. Was it? I don't know yet. Ask me when they're grown. When I see what kind of people they become, then maybe I'll know if my absence shaped them or broke them. He straightened. Put his professional mask back on. You have 8 weeks. Make them count. Build your crew. Train them right. And if you can, repair what's broken between you and your son. Because when the shooting starts, and it might, you'll need to trust each other completely. And if we can't, then you'll die, and he'll die. And everyone who depends on you will die. That's the cost of command. We fix our crews, or we fail. Brennan saluted. Patterson returned it. The gesture felt final, like a goodbye. Dismissed, Captain. And Marcus, for what it's worth, I hope you find what you're looking for. Brennan left the briefing room. The hallway outside was empty. Everyone had scattered to prepare for deployment, to pack gear, to call families, to do all the last-minute things soldiers did before leaving home. He should call Sarah, should try to explain, should apologize again, even though apologies changed nothing. But his phone stayed in his pocket. Some wounds were too fresh, some bridges burned too completely. Instead, he walked to the motor pool, to Charlie 26, to the tank that would carry him through his final mission. The maintenance crew had finished their work. The beast gleamed under the afternoon sun. Fresh paint covered old scars. But the scars were still there, hidden beneath the surface, just like everything else. Brennan climbed aboard, settled into the commander's cupola, put on his CVC helmet even though the radio was silent. He looked through the sight, scanned the empty motor pool, imagined targets, imagined threats, imagined the moment when everything would go wrong and he would have to make the calls that kept his crew alive. Talking to yourself now? Brennan turned. Emma stood beside the tank. She had changed into PTs, running shoes and a determined expression. Going for a run? Brennan asked. Thought I'd clear my head. Want to join? Brennan climbed down. His knees protested, his lungs burned, but he nodded. They ran in silence through the base, past the ranges where they had trained yesterday, past the barracks where soldiers prepared for deployment, past the memorial where David Chen's name was carved in stone. Emma stopped there, breathing hard, sweat soaking her shirt. I need to know something, she said. Go ahead. If it comes down to it, if we're in combat and you have to choose between completing the mission and saving Tyler, what will you do? The question hung between them. Terrible. Necessary. The question every commander dreaded. I'll complete the mission. Even if Tyler dies? Even then. Because that's what command means. You don't get to choose family over mission. You don't get to save one soldier at the cost of others. You do what's right even when it breaks you. Emma studied his face, searching for the lie, finding only truth. My father would have said the same thing. Your father understood command, understood sacrifice. And Tyler? Does he understand? Brennan looked at this memorial, at the names of the dead, at the price of service carved in black granite. He will. One way or another, he'll understand, even if he never forgives me. They ran back in silence. The sun moved toward the horizon. Tomorrow they would deploy. Tomorrow everything would change. But tonight, the weight of stars pressed down on a man who had carried too much for too long and found he could barely stand beneath the burden of his own past. The C-17 Globemaster roared through the night sky over the Atlantic. Inside its cavernous belly, Charlie 26 sat chained to the deck. 70 tons of American armor heading east toward a continent holding its breath. Brennan sat in the web seating along the fuselage wall. The engine noise made conversation impossible, which suited him fine. He had nothing to say that anyone wanted to hear. Morrison sat 20 feet away, arms crossed, eyes closed. But Brennan could see the tension in his jaw, the way his fingers drummed against his bicep. The man was not sleeping, just avoiding. Emma sat between them, literally and figuratively. She had brought a technical manual, rated by the dim red light of the cargo bay. Absorbed in hydraulic systems and fire control algorithms, finding refuge in mechanical certainty. Tyler sat alone at the far end, as far from Brennan as the aircraft allowed. He stared at the tank, at the machine that would contain them for the next 8 weeks, at the steel box where there would be no escape from each other. The flight took 9 hours. No one spoke. No one slept. They existed in separate bubbles of silence. 4 people bound by circumstance, divided by truth. The aircraft descended through heavy clouds. Rain hammered the fuselage. The landing gear deployed with a hydraulic groan. Then contact. The wheels screeched. The aircraft shuddered. They were in Latvia. The rear ramp lowered. Cold air rushed in, the smell of rain and diesel and foreign soil. Through the opening, Brennan could see the Adagi military base, modern buildings, NATO flags snapping in the wind, armor and vehicles from a dozen nations. The loadmaster gave hand signals. The crew mounted Charlie 26. Tyler fired the engine. The turbine whine filled the cargo bay. Then forward, down the ramp, into the rain. They followed ground guides to their assigned motor pool. Other American M1A2s were already positioned. Crews performed maintenance in the downpour. Nobody complained. This was the job. A Danish officer approached. Tall, weathered face, eyes that had seen combat. He wore the insignia of a major. Leopard crewman tabs on his shoulder. Captain Brennan? Brennan dismounted, saluted. The major returned it. Major Henrik Anderson, Jutland Dragoon Regiment. Welcome to Latvia. Thank you, sir. Anderson looked at the M1A2. Appreciation showed in his eyes. Beautiful machine. SEPV3 upgrade. Yes, sir. Trophy Active Protection, 3rd generation FLIR, upgraded communication suite. We have the 2A7DK variant, similar capabilities. Perhaps we can compare notes. I'd like that. Anderson's expression shifted, became more serious. There is a briefing in 1 hour. Battalion headquarters, attendance mandatory. Intelligence has updates on the Russian exercises. Understood. Captain, a word of advice. The situation here is more complex than your briefing at Fort Hood suggested. The Russians are probing, testing, looking for weakness. Your crew will need to be sharp. Brennan glanced back at Charlie 26, at his crew performing post-flight checks, at Tyler who refused to look his direction. We'll be ready. Anderson followed his gaze, saw the tension. New crew? Very new. In my experience, crews either forge together under pressure or shatter. There is no middle ground. Then we'll forge. Anderson nodded, but doubt showed in his eyes. The briefing room was packed. American crews, Danish, Polish, Canadian, German liaisons. The multinational nature of NATO on full display. A Lithuanian colonel stood at the podium. Behind him, satellite images filled the screen. Russian positions, troop movements, equipment concentrations. Gentlemen and ladies, the situation has evolved. What we initially assessed as routine exercises now appears to be something more. Russian forces have not withdrawn as scheduled. Instead, they have reinforced. Current estimate is a full mechanized brigade, approximately 60 tanks, equal numbers of infantry fighting vehicles, supporting artillery and air defense systems. The room stirred. This was not routine. Furthermore, we have detected increased electronic warfare activity, GPS jamming, communications interference, cyber probing of our networks. This suggests preparation for potential offensive operations. A Canadian major raised his hand. Sir, what's the assessment? Are we looking at an actual incursion? The Lithuanian colonel's face was grim. Unknown, but we must prepare for all contingencies. Your training schedule has been accelerated. You will begin combined arms exercises immediately. Live fire authorized. Rules of engagement remain defensive only. But if attacked, you will respond with appropriate force. The briefing continued for another hour. Maps, timelines, logistics, communications protocols, the machinery of alliance warfare. But Brennan's attention kept drifting to Tyler. His son sat 3 rows ahead, rigid, focused, taking notes. The perfect soldier, except for the pain radiating from him like heat from a furnace. After the briefing, crews dispersed to their billets. Brennan found himself walking alongside Major Anderson. Your crew, Anderson said quietly. There is trouble there. Yes. Personal? Very. Anderson was silent for a moment. Rain continued to fall. Their boots splashed through puddles. My father was MIA in Vietnam. Shot down over Laos in 1972. His body was never recovered. I spent 40 years wondering, searching, hoping. It defined my life, shaped every choice I made. Brennan listened, sensing the point. 3 years ago, a villager in Laos contacted the American embassy, said he knew where an aircraft had crashed, where remains might be found. I flew there, spent 2 weeks digging in jungle mud. We found him, found my father, after 40 years. I'm sorry. Don't be. Finding him gave me closure, but it also showed me something. The not knowing was worse than any truth. The uncertainty was the cruelest thing. Whatever trouble exists in your crew, Captain, uncertainty makes it worse. Truth, even painful truth, allows healing to begin. They reached the barracks. Anderson stopped at the entrance. We train together tomorrow. Oh, 600. The exercise is complex. Your crew will need to be functional. They will be. I hope so, because out here, dysfunction kills. Brennan entered the barracks, found his bunk, unpacked his gear. Around him, other soldiers did the same. The eternal ritual of military life, making temporary spaces feel like home. His phone buzzed. Text from Sarah. Did you arrive safely? Brennan stared at the message. First communication from his wife in 3 days. He typed slowly. Yes, in Latvia, beginning training tomorrow. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, be safe. We'll talk when you get back. Not if, when. The smallest hope contained in a single word. I love you. No response came. He set the phone down. Laid back on the bunk. The ceiling was unfamiliar. Foreign. But the loneliness was the same as everywhere else. Across the room, Morrison sat on his bunk, cleaning his sidearm. The ritual was meditative. Strip, clean, oil, reassemble, control the things you could control. Emma entered. She had showered. Her hair was wet. She looked younger without her gear, more vulnerable. She saw Brennan watching, walked over, sat on the edge of his bunk. Sir, permission to speak freely? Always. You need to fix this. Whatever's broken between you and Tyler, you need to fix it before we roll out tomorrow. I don't know if I can. Then learn, because Morrison is barely holding it together. Tyler is a mess, and I'm trying to keep both of them functional while dealing with my own stuff. We're not a crew. We're 4 people who happen to occupy the same tank. What's your stuff? Brennan asked quietly. Emma's eyes glistened. She looked away. Every time I look at you, I see my father. The man you couldn't save. The man who died while you lived. And I know that's not fair. I know you tried. But knowing something and feeling something are different things. Your father was a better man than me. Maybe, but you're here and he's not, so you have to be enough, for all of us. She stood, walked to her own bunk, left Brennan alone with the weight of expectations he could not meet. The rain continued through the night. Brennan dozed fitfully. Pain woke him every few hours. His lymphoma was progressing. The doctors had been right. He was dying faster here than he would have at home. But at least here he was dying for something. Dawn came gray and cold. The rain had stopped, but clouds remained. The base came alive with activity. Engines starting, crews conducting pre-combat checks, the smell of diesel and coffee and military purpose. Brennan found his crew at Charlie 2-6. Tyler was underneath, checking the final drives. Morrison was in the turret, testing the fire control systems. Emma was inventorying ammunition. They worked in silence, efficient, professional, but the warmth was gone. The connection that made a crew more than its parts was absent. Major Anderson appeared with his crew. 4 Danes, young, confident. They moved with the ease of men who had trained together for years. Captain Brennan, are you ready? Yes, sir. Good. The exercise is simple. Mixed American and Danish elements will defend against a simulated Russian attack. Polish forces will play the aggressors. Live ammunition, real terrain. The only thing simulated is the enemy's intentions. Understood. Your Charlie 2-6 will pair with my Leopard. We will hold the eastern approach. It is the most likely avenue for a real attack, therefore the most critical position. Brennan looked at the map Anderson had spread across Charlie 2-6's deck. The terrain was challenging. Forests, soft ground from the rain, limited sight lines. Rules of engagement? Defend the line. Do not advance beyond phase line delta. Do not fire unless fired upon or unless you have positive identification of hostile intent. Questions? Morrison climbed out of the turret. He had been listening. Sir, what about electronic warfare? The brief mentioned GPS jamming. Anderson smiled. It was not a happy expression. Expect it. The Poles will simulate Russian EW capabilities. Your digital systems will fail. You will revert to analog methods. Maps, compass, Mark 1 eyeball. This is not Fort Hood, Sergeant. This is as real as training gets. They mounted up. Brennan in the commander's cupola. Morrison at the gunner's station. Emma ready to load. Tyler in the driver's hole. The engine fired. The turbine scream filled the morning. Around them, other tanks did the same. The sound of armor preparing for war. They rolled out in formation, American and Danish tanks interleaved. A wall of steel moving toward the defensive positions. Mud flew from the tracks. The ground was soft, treacherous. Tyler drove with skill. He found firm ground where others would have bogged, navigated around obstacles without being told. His natural talent was undeniable. But when Brennan tried to coach him over the intercom, Tyler's responses were clipped, minimal. He would follow orders, but offered nothing more. They reached their assigned position, a reverse slope with good fields of fire to the east. Anderson's Leopard positioned 200 meters to their left. Other NATO tanks spread across the defensive line, then waiting. The hardest part of combat, the time when thoughts crept in, when doubts multiplied, when the cost of failure became real. Morrison's voice crackled over the intercom. Target reference point Alpha established. Range 3,000 meters. Identification, tree line. Roger, confirm thermals are up. Thermals show cold. Switching to daylight. Emma's voice joined. Ammunition loaded. APF SDS, ready to fire. Tyler said nothing. Just held position. Engine idling. Ready to move on command. Time crawled. Minutes felt like hours. The morning light strengthened. Birds called from the forest. A beautiful day for killing. Then the radio crackled. Battalion Net, call sign Hammer 6. All stations, this is Hammer 6. Exercise is live. I say again, exercise is live. Expect contact within 30 minutes. Brennan scanned the horizon through his optics. Nothing yet. But they were coming. Somewhere out there, Polish forces in their PT-91 tanks were moving into position, playing the role of Russian aggressors. Crew, this is real training. Treat it like combat. Every round counts. Every decision matters. Questions? Silence. Then Morrison spoke. Sir, permission to speak freely? Go ahead. If we're going to survive this, we need to work together. Whatever personal issues exist, they stay outside this tank. Inside, we're a crew. We trust each other or we die. Agreed? It was the longest speech Morrison had made in days, and it was directed at everyone, including Brennan. Agreed, Brennan said. Chen? Agreed, Emma said firmly. Brooks? Long pause, then Tyler's voice, quiet but steady. Agreed. It was not forgiveness, not even acceptance, but it was a start. The radio crackled again. Danish net this time, Anderson's voice. Charlie 2-6, this is Leopold 1. Movement east. Multiple contacts. Stand by for identification. Brennan swung his optics east. Scanned the tree line. At first nothing, then movement. Shapes emerging from the forest. Angular turrets, the distinctive profile of Soviet-designed tanks. Contact. Tanks. Bearing 090, range 3100. Morrison was already on it. Identified. PT 9120. Count 4. Correction 6. They're in a line formation. Hold fire. Let them close. The Polish tanks advanced. Tactical movement. Bounding overwatch. Professional. They knew NATO was here. Were probing for positions. Range 2800, Morrison called. Anderson's voice cut in. All Leopold and Charlie elements. Hold until they reach phase line Bravo. Make them commit. The tension inside Charlie 2-6 was electric. Morrison's breathing came steady but fast over the intercom. Emma's hands gripped around, ready to load the next one. Tyler's foot hovered over the accelerator, ready to move. Brennan felt his heart hammering, the familiar pre-combat rush. Adrenaline and fear and focus all compressed into a single point of awareness. Range 2500, Morrison said. The Polish tanks crossed phase line Bravo. All stations, weapons free, engage at will. Morrison didn't hesitate. Identified tank APFSS on the way. The cannon fired. The shock wave slapped through the tank. Propellant gases vented. The turret filled with the acrid smell of burned powder. Downrange, the round struck. The Polish tank's trophy system activated, intercepted the round, but the impact was still visible, a shower of fragments. Target suppressed but not destroyed, reloading. Emma moved like a machine. Extract the spent casing, load the new round, lock the breech, all in seconds. Up, she called. Morrison fired again. This time the Polish tank took the hit. Smoke grenades deployed. The vehicle reversed. Out of the fight according to exercise rules. Target destroyed, shifting fire. But the other Polish tanks were firing back. Simulated rounds, but the laser systems registered hits and misses. Charlie 2-6's reactive armor tiles logged impacts. Taking fire, Tyler called. His voice was tight but controlled. Driver, back 10 meters. Put us behind the crest. Tyler moved immediately. Smooth, precise. The tank reversed, dropped behind the slope. The incoming fire passed overhead. Good move. Now shift right 20 meters, different firing position. Tyler executed without question. This was what he knew, what he was good at. Inside the tank with a mission, the personal fell away. They emerged at a new position. Morrison already had a target. Tank range 2300, APFSDS on the way. Another kill. The Polish tank's systems registered a catastrophic hit. It stopped. Crew bailed out according to exercise protocol. Across the line, Danish and American tanks were engaging. The sound of cannon fire rolled across the landscape like thunder. Smoke obscured the battlefield. The exercise had become chaotic, real. Then Morrison's systems flickered. The digital fire control went dark. The screens died. Sir, I've lost the fire control computer. Everything's down. The GPS jammers. The electronic warfare simulation. It had begun. Revert to backup, manual systems. Morrison swore under his breath, but his hands moved to the analog controls, the mechanical sight, the manual rangefinder. Technology from another era. This is going to be slower. Then be accurate. Tyler, we need to get closer, close to 1,500 meters. I need Morrison to see what he's shooting at. Roger. Tyler drove forward, exposed them on the slope, but at 1,500 meters, Morrison's manual sight was effective. A Polish tank appeared. Close. Too close. They had maneuvered during the confusion. Morrison saw it, traversed manually. The turret whined. Slow, so slow compared to digital controls. Target tank range 1500. The Polish tank fired first. Their systems were still up. The laser registered a hit on Charlie 2-6's glasses plate. We're hit. Front slope, armor held, but we're suppressed for 30 seconds per exercise rules. 30 seconds. An eternity in combat. The Polish tank would fire again. Would kill them according to the exercise parameters. But Tyler didn't wait. He threw the tank into reverse, dropped them behind a berm, out of sight. That was initiative. Good call. The 30-second suppression ended. Tyler immediately moved them to a new position, flanking, using terrain, thinking like a tanker. They emerged with the Polish tank exposed on their right flank. Morrison traversed, smooth, steady. Tank, right flank, range 1200, APFSDS on the way. The shot was perfect. Manual fire control, analog systems. But Morrison's skill overcame the limitations. The Polish tank registered the kill, stopped, crew bailed. Target destroyed, manual gunnery still works. Outstanding shooting, Sergeant. The battle continued for another hour, advancing, retreating, engaging. The dance of armor warfare played out across the Latvian countryside. Charlie 2-6 worked as a team, each member playing their role. The personal conflicts forgotten in the urgency of the mission. Finally, the exercise ended. Ceasefire order. All tanks stopped. Crews dismounted. Controllers moved across the battlefield assessing performance. Brennan climbed out. His body ached. The cancer made every movement harder. But they had performed well. Very well. Major Anderson approached. His Leopard had also survived. 3 kills to their tally. Excellent work, Captain. Your crew is skilled. Thank you, sir. But I notice you use manual systems well. Many crews today rely too heavily on technology. When it fails, they are helpless. Your crew adapted. We train for degraded operations. Good, because the next exercise will be worse. Night operations, full electronic warfare, heavy jamming. If you think today was difficult, tomorrow will be hell. Morrison and Emma joined them. Tyler stood apart, but closer than before. The exercise had changed something, shifted the dynamic. A Polish officer approached, young, smiling. Good fight, Americans. You killed 3 of my tanks, but we killed 5 of yours across the line. It's not over yet, Morrison said. We have 7 more weeks. Then we will see who learns faster. The Pole walked away. Professional respect between warriors, even simulated warriors. The crews began recovery operations. Tanks that had been killed were towed back. Equipment was checked. Ammunition expended was logged. The administrative aftermath of training. Brennan pulled his crew together, away from the others. Good work today, all of you. Morrison, outstanding gunnery under manual control. Chen, fast loading under pressure. Brooks, excellent driving and initiative. We functioned as a crew. They stood in awkward silence. Acceptance of praise, but not yet comfortable with each other. Tomorrow is night operations, harder, more complex. We need to maintain what we built today. Inside the tank, we're a team, agreed? 3 nods, no words, but the acknowledgement was there. Emma spoke first. Sir, can I ask something? Go ahead. My father, the day he died, what happened? Really happened? Brennan looked at her, at David Chen's daughter, at the young woman who carried her father's courage. We were clearing houses, Fallujah, East Side. Your father's Bradley was supporting infantry. They took an RPG through the rear ramp, fuel tank ignited. He was the track commander. Could have bailed immediately, but there were 2 privates in the back. Trapped, he went back in, pulled them out, got them clear, then went back for the driver. The ammunition cooked off while he was inside. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Did he suffer? Yes, but not long. We got him to the hospital. He was conscious for a few days. Talked about you, about your mother, about the life he wanted to give you. His last words were asking me to watch over you. And did you? I tried, but not enough, never enough. Tyler stepped forward. His face was hard, angry. And what about me? What about watching over me? Or did I not matter because I wasn't legitimate? Because I was the mistake you wanted to forget? The words cut deep, drew blood. You mattered. You matter. I was a coward. I ran from responsibility, from consequences. I chose the easy path and you paid the price. 22 years. I could have known my father, could have had family, could have belonged somewhere, but you took that from me. I know, and I can't give those years back, can't undo the damage. All I can do is be here now, be honest now, and hope that's enough. Tyler's hands clenched into fists, his body shook with rage. It's not enough, it will never be enough. He turned and walked away. Across the muddy field, alone. Morrison watched him go, then looked at Brennan. He's right, you know, it's not enough, but maybe it's a start. Maybe that's all we get. Starts, and then we see what we build from there. And what about you, Sergeant? What do you think? Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then, I think we're all broken in different ways. I have my demons from Fallujah. Emma has her father's ghost. Tyler has his abandonment. And you have your cancer and your guilt. But broken doesn't mean useless. Sometimes broken things are stronger because they had to be repaired. He walked away, following Tyler, not to comfort, just to be present. Emma remained. My father used to say that courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about being terrified and doing what needed to be done anyway. Your father was a wise man. He was, and he believed in you. In his letters, he wrote that you were the kind of officer who would never leave a man behind, who would always do the right thing even when it cost you. I left Tyler behind. No, you left before you knew he existed. That's different. Stupid, but different. And now you're here, dying, spending your last months trying to make it right. That's the man my father described. She walked away, left Brennan standing alone on the battlefield. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the torn earth. In the distance, crews loaded their tanks onto transporters. The exercise was over. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Brennan's phone buzzed, text from Amanda. Dad, Michael and I talked. We're angry, hurt, betrayed, but we're also worried. Mom says you're sick. Really sick, is it true? Brennan stared at this message. His children, the ones he had raised, the ones who had every right to hate him. He typed slowly. Yes, terminal, 6 months maybe. I'm sorry I didn't tell you. Sorry for everything. The response came quickly. Then come home. Don't die over there. Die here, with family. I need to finish this first. Need to give Tyler what I can, even if it's not enough. And what about us? Don't we matter? You matter more than anything. But Tyler needs me more. He's alone. You have each other, have your mother, have lives and futures. Tyler has questions I'm the only one who can answer. Long pause, then answer them and come home, please. Brennan pocketed the phone, looked at the darkening sky, at the foreign stars appearing overhead. He had 6 months, maybe less. 8 weeks here, then home, then the end. But first, he had a crew to build, a son to know, a promise to keep. The weight of stars pressed down, but for the first time in days, Brennan felt something other than despair. He felt purpose. And for a dying man, purpose was enough. The night operations began at midnight. No moon, cloud cover thick, visibility near zero. Charlie 2-6 rolled into position using night vision. The world rendered in shades of green, everything strange and alien. Major Anderson's voice came over the radio. All stations be advised. Intelligence reports actual Russian reconnaissance drones over the exercise area. This is not part of the exercise. Maintain alert. The temperature inside the tank dropped. Real threat, real observation. The line between training and reality had blurred. Morrison scanned the horizon through thermals. Movement, bearing 270, range unknown. Could be wind, could be enemy. Keep watching it. Hours passed. The crew rotated, 1 hour on watch, 20 minutes rest. The rhythm of armored operations in the field. At 0400, the crisis began. Tyler saw it first. Movement on the periphery. Not Polish exercise forces, something else. Sir, I've got multiple vehicles approaching from the north. Not on our planned enemy avenue, moving fast. Brennan swung his sights north. Saw what Tyler saw. 6 vehicles. Fast. Light armor. Hammer 6, this is Charlie 2-6. Contact north. Multiple light vehicles. Not exercise forces. How copy? Static. Then, Charlie 2-6, maintain position. Do not engage. We're investigating. But the vehicles kept coming, closer. They were not stopping. Then Anderson's voice, urgent. All stations, abort exercise, return to base immediately. Potential infiltration, move now. The Danish major's tone said everything. This was real. Tyler fired the engine to full power. The turbine screamed. They moved. Fast. Behind them, the vehicles followed. In the darkness. Through the forest. This was no longer training. This was something else entirely. And Charlie 2-6 was racing into the unknown with a crew barely held together by the thinnest thread of shared purpose. The night had just begun, and morning seemed very far away. The base perimeter came into view. Lights, fences, guard towers, safety. Charlie 2-6 crossed the checkpoint at speed. The pursuing vehicles had fallen back, disappeared into the forest like ghosts. Brennan's hands were shaking, not from fear, from the morphine wearing off. The pain was returning, sharp, insistent, a reminder that his body was failing even as his mission continued. They parked in the motor pool, engine shut down. The silence after hours of turbine scream was absolute, deafening in its own way. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. They sat in the darkness of the tank, processing what had just happened. Finally, Morrison broke the silence. What the hell was that? I don't know, Brenton said, but it wasn't exercise forces. Russian reconnaissance? Maybe, or something worse. Emma's voice was small, uncertain. The confidence of the day before had evaporated. Are we safe here? Safer than out there, but safe is relative now. They dismounted. Brennan's legs nearly buckled. The pain was intense. He steadied himself against the tank. Hoped nobody noticed. But Tyler saw. For a moment, their eyes met. Tyler's expression flickered. Concern. Then he looked away. The wall between them still stood. Major Anderson appeared from the darkness. His face was grim. Everyone accounted for? Yes, sir. What happened out there? Intelligence is still assessing, but preliminary analysis suggests those vehicles were Russian Special Operations Forces, Spetsnaz, conducting reconnaissance in advance of potential operations. Morrison's jaw clenched. They were inside Latvian territory. That's an act of war. It's a gray zone operation, deniable, untraceable, Russia's specialty. They probe. We respond. The dance continues, but the music is getting faster. What now? Brennan asked. Emergency briefing at 0600. Get some rest if you can. Tomorrow's training is canceled. We're going to full alert status. This base is now a potential target. Anderson walked away, leaving the crew standing in the darkness. I need a drink, Morrison said. He walked toward the barracks, shoulders hunched, the ghosts of Fallujah walking with him. Emma looked at Brennan. Should we let him go alone? He needs space, but keep an eye on him. She nodded, followed Morrison at a distance. Tyler remained, standing beside Charlie 2-6, hand on the armor, as if the tank could provide answers that people could not. Brennan approached, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. You did good work tonight. That driving saved us. Tyler didn't respond, just stared at the tank. I know you don't want to hear this, don't want to hear anything from me, but I'm proud of you. Your mother would be proud too. Tyler's hand clenched into a fist against the armor. Don't talk about her like you knew her, like you cared. You left her pregnant and alone in a war zone. You have no right to speak her name. You're right, I don't. But she was brave and kind, and she loved you before you were even born. She told me that in the letter she left, the one I received after she died. She said her only regret was that you would grow up without knowing your father, but that she didn't regret protecting me, protecting my family. She thought she was doing the right thing. Tyler turned, rage and pain warring in his eyes. She was wrong. Protecting you was the worst thing she could have done, because I spent my whole life feeling incomplete, feeling like half a person, wondering what was wrong with me that my father didn't want me. Nothing was wrong with you. Everything was wrong with me. I was selfish, weak, a coward who ran from consequences. Then why are you here now? Guilt, pity, some deathbed attempt at redemption? Brennan met his son's eyes, saw the hurt there, the anger, the desperate need to understand. All of that, but also because you deserve answers, deserve to know where you came from, deserve to have a father, even a terrible one for whatever time is left. Time, how much time? 6 months when I deployed, maybe 4 now. The cancer is aggressive. Tyler's anger cracked. Underneath was something more fragile, fear. You're dying, yes? And you came here instead of spending your last months with your real family. You are my real family, as real as Amanda and Michael. Blood doesn't lie, even when people do. Tyler turned away, his shoulders shook. When he spoke, his voice was thick. I don't know how to do this. Don't know how to have a father. Don't know how to forgive you. Don't know how to hate you. I don't know anything anymore. Brennan wanted to reach out, to touch his son's shoulder, to offer comfort. But the distance between them was more than physical. You don't have to know. We'll figure it out together. One day at a time, one conversation at a time, until we run out of time. Tyler wiped his eyes, straightened. The soldier mask returned. I need to sleep. We have briefing in 4 hours. He walked away, left Brennan standing alone beside Charlie 2-6. The tank was cold now, the engine off, just metal and composite, but it had carried them through the night, had kept them alive, had forced them to work together despite everything pulling them apart. Brennan climbed onto the deck, sat in the commander's cupola, looked at the stars emerging through breaking clouds. Somewhere out there, Russian forces were planning, preparing. The threat was real now, not theoretical, not exercise. And he had a broken crew, a dying body, and a mission that might cost more than any of them were prepared to pay. His phone buzzed. Text from Dr. Mitchell at the VA. Captain Brennan, your lab results came back. The cancer has metastasized to your liver. You need to come home immediately for aggressive treatment. You have weeks, not months. Please respond. Brennan stared at the message. Weeks. The timeline had compressed. The sand in the hourglass was running faster than expected. He typed back, I'm finishing my mission, then I'll come home. The response was immediate. There won't be a home to come back to if you wait. You'll die over there. Then I'll die serving. He turned off the phone, looked back at the stars. David Chen had died serving, had chosen to go back into the flames for his crew, had understood that some things mattered more than survival. Brennan was beginning to understand that too. The barracks were quiet when he entered. Most of the crew were already asleep, but Morrison's bunk was empty. Emma sat on her bunk, still dressed, watching Morrison's empty space with worried eyes. He didn't come back, she whispered. Where did he go? I don't know. He walked past the barracks, kept going. Brennan cursed softly. He walked back outside, scanned the base. Most buildings were dark, but light showed from one structure, the rec hall. He found Morrison there, alone at a table, empty bottle beside him, working on a second. His hands shook as he poured. Sergeant. Morrison didn't look up. Captain, come to tell me drinking on deployment is against regulations? Come to tell you I understand. Morrison laughed, bitter, hollow. You understand? You understand what it's like to see children die because you made the wrong call? To hear screams every time you close your eyes? To wake up every night thinking you're back in that fucking city? Brennan sat across from him, took the bottle, poured himself a drink. Fallujah? Second battle, November 2004. House to house. We were clearing a block. Intel said it was clear. Civilian families had evacuated. So we used heavy weapons, artillery, tank rounds, leveled every building. He drank, the liquor disappeared. He poured more. Except they hadn't evacuated. There was a family, hiding in a basement. Mother, 3 kids. We found them after. When we went in to confirm, found them crushed under the rubble we'd called down on their heads. That's not on you, that's on bad intelligence. I pulled the trigger. I called the fire mission. I killed them. And every night since, I see their faces, hear their voices, feel their blood on my hands. Morrison's voice broke. Tears tracked down his face. I have a daughter, Lily, 6 years old, same age as one of those kids. Every time I look at her, I see them. See what I took from some other father, some other family. How do I live with that? Brennan had no answer. Some wounds were too deep for words. You live by being better, by being present for Lily, by serving with honor now, by making every day count for something. Like you're doing, dying over here instead of being with your family? The words hit hard, true and cutting. I'm not the example to follow. I'm the cautionary tale. Don't be me, Jake. Don't let guilt consume you until there's nothing left. Your daughter needs you, alive, present, whole as you can be. Morrison wiped his eyes, looked at Brennan with raw honesty. I can't be whole. I am too broken. The pieces don't fit anymore. Then be broken. But be there. Broken is better than absent. Trust me, I'm the expert on absence. They sat in silence, drinking. 2 broken men in a foreign country, carrying ghosts that would never fully leave. Finally, Morrison spoke. Tyler told me you're dying, cancer. Yes. How long? Weeks now, maybe a month. Does the crew know? Emma figured it out. Tyler knows because I told him. You know now, that's enough. Why are you still here? Why not go home? Brennan looked at the empty bottle, at his hands, at the scars from a lifetime of service. Because Tyler deserves a father, even a dying one, even for a few weeks. And because this crew needs to be forged, needs to be ready. The threat is real now, we saw that tonight. Someone has to make sure you're ready for what's coming. Morrison nodded slowly. The old man going down swinging, something like that. Then let's make it count. Let's build this crew right. So when you're gone, we can still function, can still fight, can still win. They stood, walked back to the barracks together. The alcohol buzzed in Brennan's system, mixing poorly with the morphine. But the pain was distant now, manageable. Emma was still awake when they entered. Relief flooded her face when she saw Morrison. You're okay. Not okay, but here, that's close enough. She hugged him. Morrison stiffened, then relaxed, accepted the comfort he had denied himself for so long. Tyler watched from his bunk. His eyes met Brennan's across the darkened room. Something passed between them. Not understanding, not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. Recognition that they were all broken in different ways, all trying to hold together despite the cracks. Brennan fell into his bunk. Sleep came fast, dreamless, the sleep of exhaustion. He woke to Emma shaking his shoulder. Her face was pale. Sir, you need to see this. Now. He followed her outside. Dawn was breaking. Gray light revealed the motor pool. And sitting beside Charlie 26 was a Danish leopard. Major Anderson stood beside it. His face was grim. "Captain, we have a problem." Brennan approached, saw what Anderson was showing him. Someone had sabotaged the leopard, cut hydraulic lines, damaged fire control systems. Professional work. Deliberate. "When?" Brennan asked. "Sometime during the night, while we were all sleeping, while security was focused on the perimeter." "Who?" "Unknown. But this wasn't random vandalism. This was targeted, precise. Someone with technical knowledge, someone who knew exactly what to damage to take a tank out of action without it being immediately obvious." Morrison and Tyler had joined them. Morrison's hangover showed on his face, but his eyes were sharp, analyzing. "Inside job," Morrison said. "Had to be. This level of access requires someone with credentials, someone who belongs here." Tyler circled the leopard, studying the damage. "This is Spetsnaz methodology. I studied it in intelligence training. They target force multipliers. Disable without destroying, create uncertainty and paranoia." Anderson's expression darkened. "You're saying we have a Russian agent on this base?" "I'm saying someone wants us to think that. Whether it's true or misdirection, the effect is the same. We can't trust anyone. Can't be sure who's compromised." The implications settled over them like a shroud. They were isolated, vulnerable, with an enemy that might be inside the wire. And Charlie 26's crew was the only unit Brennan could trust completely, because they were too broken, too dysfunctional, too obviously damaged to be covert operatives. Their brokenness was their armor, and they would need every bit of it for what was coming. The emergency briefing room was packed. Every crew, every officer. The air thick with tension and coffee gone cold. Colonel Patterson stood at the podium. Behind him, satellite imagery showed Russian force dispositions. "Gentlemen and ladies, the situation has deteriorated. Russian forces crossed into Estonian territory. A mechanized company, approximately 12 tanks and supporting infantry. Estonian defense forces engaged. Fighting is ongoing." The room erupted. Patterson raised his hand for silence. "NATO has invoked Article 5. We are now on operational deployment. This is no longer training. Rules of engagement are combat standard. You are authorized to defend yourselves and allied forces with lethal force." Brennan felt his heart rate spike. Combat, real combat, with a crew barely held together. Patterson continued. "Intelligence indicates the main Russian objective is the Riga corridor. Control would split the Baltic states, isolate NATO forces. We cannot allow that to happen." He clicked to the next image, a map showing defensive positions. "Multinational brigade will establish defensive line here, 20 kilometers east of the Estonian border. Hold for minimum 6 hours. Allow civilian evacuation. Give time for reinforcements to arrive from Poland and Germany." Questions? A Canadian major stood. "Sir, what are our force ratios?" Patterson's expression was grim. "Best estimate, Russian forces have committed approximately 120 tanks. We have 48. They have numerical superiority. We have training, technology, and defensive positions. It will have to be enough." Brennan did the math. 3-to-1 odds, terrible numbers. Defensive positions helped, but not enough. Major Anderson raised his hand. "Sir, the sabotage last night. Have we identified the perpetrator?" "Negative. Investigation ongoing. All crews will implement enhanced security protocols. No one works alone. All maintenance is supervised. Report any suspicious activity immediately." The briefing continued. Logistics, communications, casualty evacuation procedures, the machinery of war grinding into motion. Finally, Patterson dismissed them. "Mount up. Move to assembly area by 0800. God be with you all." Brennan walked out into the cold morning. His crew waited by Charlie 26. They looked different now. Harder. Reality had stripped away training mentality. "Crew meeting," Brennan said. "Now." They gathered around the tank, away from others, in their small bubble of privacy. "You heard the brief. This is real. We deploy in 2 hours. Some of us won't come back. That's the truth." Morrison's jaw was set. Emma's hands trembled. Tyler stared at the ground. "I need to know now. Can you do this? Can you trust each other enough to fight together?" Morrison spoke first. "I'm in. My demons come with me, but I'm in." Emma nodded. "My father died doing this. I honor him by doing it too." Tyler was silent for a long moment. Then he looked up, met Brennan's eyes. "I still don't forgive you. Don't know if I can call you father. But you're my commander. I'll follow your orders. I'll do my job. That's enough. Now, listen, the cancer has spread. I have weeks, maybe days. I might not survive this, even if we're never fired on. Emma gasped. Morrison swore. Tyler's face went pale. Why tell us this now? Emma asked. Because you deserve to know. If I collapse in a fight, you need to be ready. Morrison, you're second in command. If I go down, you take over. Emma, you're backup commander. Tyler, you keep driving no matter what happens. Clear? 3 nods. Stunned. Processing. One more thing. If it comes down to choosing between the mission and saving me, you complete the mission. I'm dead anyway. Make my last act count. Sir, Emma's voice broke. We can't just leave you. You can and you will. That's an order. My life is measured in days, yours in decades. The math is simple. Brennan pulled out an envelope, handed it to Morrison. Letters for my wife, my kids, and one for Tyler. If I don't make it, deliver these. Morrison took it. His hand shook. This is really happening. Yes, now let's be ready. They spent the next hour on final preparations. Ammunition loaded, systems checked, fuel topped off, every bolt tightened, the ritual of soldiers preparing for battle. Other crews did the same. The motor pool buzzed with activity, all preparing together, all facing the same fate. Major Anderson approached. His Leopard was ready. His crew looked calm. Men who had done this before. Captain, my tank will be on your left flank. We'll cover each other. Understood. I spoke with my wife this morning. Told her I loved her, just in case. Good. Did you do the same? Brennan thought of Sarah, of Amanda and Michael, of the silence between them. I wrote letters. It's close enough. Anderson put a hand on Brennan's shoulder. My father never came home from his war. I spent my life wondering his last thoughts. Don't let your family wonder, Marcus. Call them, even if it's hard. Even if. He walked away. Brennan stood with a phone in his hand. He dialed Sarah. The phone rang 3 times. She answered. Marcus? Her voice. After days of silence, it was like water in a desert. Sarah, I'm deploying. Combat. Real combat. I needed to hear your voice. Silence, then. Are you safe? For now, but it's been Russian incursion, outnumbered. I might not come home. Then why are you there? Because Tyler needs me. This crew needs me. Some things are worth dying for. And we're not? The question cut deep. You are. You're worth everything. But you have each other. Tyler has no one. I'm trying to give him something. Even if it's just answers, even if it's just a few weeks of having a father. Sarah's breath caught. Tears thickened her voice. I'm angry at you, so hurt. But I also understand. That's what makes it worse. I understand why you had to go. Why you'll probably die there. I'm sorry. For everything. For Kosovo. For lying. For deploying when I should have stayed. I'm sorry I'm not the man you deserved. You're the man I chose. Flawed, stubborn, noble and stupid together. I love you, Marcus Brennan. Always loved you. Even when I hated you. I love you too. Tell Amanda and Michael I'm proud. Tell them I'm sorry I wasn't better. Tell them yourself when you come home. You have to come home. I'll try. Don't try, do it. That's an order from your wife. He smiled despite his tears. Yes, ma'am. And Marcus, take care of Tyler. He's ours now. He's family. Bring him home too. I will. They said goodbye. Brennan stood holding the phone, feeling lighter despite what was coming. Tyler had been watching from a distance. When Brennan looked up, their eyes met. Tyler walked over, slowly. Was that her, your wife? Yes, Sarah, your stepmother. What did she say? That you're family. That I need to bring you home. Tyler's eyes glistened. I don't know how to be family. Neither do I. We'll figure it out. If we survive. And if we don't, then at least we tried. That's more than I gave you before. Tyler nodded, started to walk away, stopped, turned back. I read my mother's letter again. She said you were a good man caught in an impossible situation, that you would have stayed if you'd known. She believed that. She was giving me too much credit. Maybe, or maybe she saw something you don't see. Before Brennan could respond, the radio crackled. All units, mount up. We move in 10 minutes. The moment shattered. The brief connection severed by duty. They climbed into Charlie 2-6, took their positions, the familiar stations that had become home. Brennan settled into the commander's cupola, put on his CVC helmet. Comms check. Morrison? Up. Chen? Good to go. Brooks? A pause, then. Ready, sir. Let's bring everyone home. The engine fired. The turbine scream built to a roar. Around them, 47 other tanks did the same. The sound was apocalyptic. They rolled out in formation, A wall of steel heading east, toward guns already firing, toward Russians who had crossed the line, toward whatever fate waited. The drive took 2 hours, through Latvian countryside, past villages evacuating, past children watching, past old men who remembered Soviet occupation. The land rose gradually, rolling hills, forests, good tank country. They reached the defensive line, a ridge line with good fields of fire to the east. Charlie 2-6 took position between Anderson's Leopard and a Canadian LAV. Behind them, artillery dug in, howitzers, HIMARS, the long reach of NATO firepower. Above, F-35 streaked past, air superiority established, then waiting. The hardest part, knowing the enemy was coming. Morrison broke the silence. "Sir, I need to say something." "Go ahead. If this goes bad, if I don't make it, tell my daughter I love her. Tell her daddy was brave at the end. You'll tell her yourself. Humor me." "Okay." Emma spoke next. "Captain, my father's last words were asking you to watch over me. You did. Not perfectly, but you tried. If I die today, I die knowing someone kept that promise. Thank you." "Emma, you're not dying today. None of us know that, but thank you." Tyler's voice came quiet. "I don't have anyone to leave messages for. No family except you, and I don't know what to say." Brennan's throat tightened. "Then say it after. When we're back at base, we'll figure out what family means together." "Deal." The radio crackled. Patterson's voice. "All stations, we have enemy contact. Multiple armored columns approaching. Stand by." Morrison's hands moved to his controls. "Here we go." Through his optics, Brennan saw them. Russian tanks. T-90Ms, modern, lethal, advancing in formation. "Count?" Morrison's voice was steady. "I have 12 tanks in lead element. More behind. Estimate company strength. Range 4,000 meters. Artillery. Do you have eyes on?" "Affirm. Fire mission received. Guns up in 30 seconds." The Russian tanks kept coming, confident. Then the artillery spoke. The sound was like the world tearing. Shells screamed overhead, impacted among the Russians. Explosions bloomed. 2 Russian tanks stopped. The others kept coming. "Range 3,000, Morrison called. "Hold fire. Let them close." The Russians returned to fire. Tank rounds streaked past. Artillery fell behind NATO lines. The earth shook. "Taking indirect fire," Tyler reported, calm despite the explosions. "Hold position." The Russian tanks crossed phase line Bravo, 2,500 meters. "All stations, weapons free. Engage at will." Morrison fired without hesitation. "Tank, APF-SDS, on the way." The cannon recoiled. The shot flew true, struck a T-90M center mass. The Russian tank's reactive armor detonated, but the tank kept moving. Hit but not dead, reloading. Emma worked the breach, smooth, fast, years of training compressed into seconds of action. Up. Morrison fired again. This time the T-90M stopped. Smoke poured from hatches. Crew bailed. Target destroyed. Shifting fire. Across the line, NATO tanks engaged. The ridge erupted with muzzle flashes. Smoke. Chaos. The sound was continuous, deafening. Russian tanks fired back. A Canadian LAV exploded. Crew killed instantly. A Polish tank took a hit. Survived but pulled back damaged. Charlie 2-6 kept firing. Morrison was a machine. Acquire, fire, reload, acquire, fire, reload. 4 kills in 3 minutes. But the Russians kept coming. For every tank destroyed, 2 more appeared. "They're going to flank us," Tyler said. "Northern approach. I see movement." Brennan swung his optics north. Tyler was right. A Russian element was maneuvering to hit their exposed flank. Hammer 6, Charlie 2-6. Enemy flanking north. Request fire support. "Negative, Charlie. Artillery is engaged on main thrust. You're on your own." Brennan made the decision. "Tyler, back us up. We're repositioning to block the flank." "Roger." Charlie 2-6 reversed, pulled out of the main line, moved north to intercept the flanking force. Anderson's voice cut in. "Charlie 2-6, I'm coming with you. You'll need support." The Leopard pulled out, followed Charlie 2-6 north. 2 tanks against an unknown number of enemies. They crested a rise and saw them. 8 Russian tanks. T-72B3s, older but still deadly, moving fast toward the NATO flank. "Contact, multiple tanks, range 2,000. Morrison traversed. Emma loaded. Tyler positioned them hull down behind the crest. "Fire." The battle became intimate, close range, fast and brutal. Morrison fired, reloaded, fired again. The Leopard engaged alongside them. Russian tanks exploded. But return fire was heavy, accurate. Charlie 2-6's armor rang with impacts. The trophy system intercepted 2 missiles, but the third got through. The hit was catastrophic. The turret rang like a bell. Brennan was thrown against his seat restraints. His head cracked against the cupola rim. Blood ran down his face. Emma screamed. Morrison shouted damage reports. Tyler kept the engine running, kept them mobile. Brennan shook his head, cleared his vision, looked down into the turret. Emma was down. Shrapnel had penetrated the sponson. She lay crumpled, blood spreading. Emma! Morrison was already moving, unbuckling, climbing to her. She's alive, unconscious, bad bleeding. We need medevac now. Negative. We're in the middle of a fight, Tyler. Get us behind that tree line. Morrison, can you load and shoot? I can load, can't do both and render aid. Brennan made the decision. He unbuckled, dropped down into the turret. I'll load, you shoot. Tyler, keep us alive. Pain exploded through Brennan's chest as he moved. The cancer, the impact, everything combining. But he pushed through it, grabbed around, loaded the breech. Up. Morrison fired. The empty casing ejected. Brennan grabbed another round. His hands shook, his vision blurred, but he loaded. Up. Fire. Load. Fire. Load. The rhythm of combat. The dance of death. Another Russian tank died, then another. But there were still 4, and Charlie 2-6 was damaged. Emma was bleeding out. Brennan was barely conscious. Then Anderson's Leopard took a direct hit, penetrated the turret. The Danish tank stopped moving. Leopold 1 is down, came the call. Crew bailing out. They were alone. 4 Russian tanks against 1 damaged M1A2 with a dying commander and a wounded loader. The odds were impossible, but Tyler kept driving. Morrison kept shooting, and Brennan kept loading, despite his body screaming for him to stop. 2 more Russian tanks fell, but the last 2 were closing, flanking, trying to get side shots where Charlie 2-6's armor was thinnest. Tyler, we need to move. Now. Where? Forward, straight at them. Get us to knife fighting range. They can't maneuver if we're in their face. That's suicide. It's our only chance. Do it. Tyler hesitated 1 second, then threw the throttle forward. Charlie 2-6 surged ahead. 70 tons of wounded armor charging directly at 2 Russian tanks. The Russians tried to back up, maintain distance. But Tyler was faster, better. He closed to 300 meters, 200, 100. At that range, every shot was lethal. Morrison fired, point blank. The round went straight through a T-72B3. Detonated the ammunition. The Russian tank exploded from the inside, turret blown 50 feet in the air. The last Russian tank traversed its gun. Desperate, trying to get a shot. But Morrison was faster. Tank, on the way. The shot hit the T-72B3's turret ring. The weak point. The Russian tank shuddered, stopped. Hatches flew open. Crew evacuated. Silence fell. The flanking attack was broken. 8 Russian tanks destroyed. Charlie 2-6 damaged, but alive. Anderson's crew on the ground but breathing. Emma bleeding but stable. Brennan collapsed against the ammunition rack. His vision was fading. The pain was beyond anything morphine could touch. Something fundamental had broken inside him. He could feel the internal bleeding, could feel his body shutting down system by system. This was different from the slow death of cancer. This was immediate, final, the end coming in minutes instead of weeks. Morrison looked back, saw him. Sir, stay with me. Emma, check Emma first. Morrison moved to her, checked pulse, applied pressure to the worst bleeding. His hands were steady despite the chaos, despite the fear. She's stable, pulse is strong, bleeding is controlled. She'll make it if we get her help. Then get her help. Call medevac. Get her out of here. What about you? Brennan tried to laugh. It came out as a cough. Blood flecked his lips. I'm done, Jake. I can feel it. The cancer was already killing me, but that hit finished the job. Something vital is torn. I'm bleeding out internally. Minutes, not hours. Morrison's face twisted. The hardened combat veteran showing the fear beneath. No, you don't get to die on me. Not after everything. Not after getting us this far. Not after making us into a real crew. You were always a real crew. You just needed to believe it. Needed pressure to forge you together. I was just the catalyst. Tyler's voice came over the intercom, urgent, scared. What's happening? Morrison, talk to me. Morrison keyed the mic. His voice caught. The captain is down. Critical. Emma is wounded but stable. We need immediate medevac for both. Tyler was silent for a moment, processing. Then his voice came back different, harder. determined. I'm coming back there. Negative. Stay in your hole. Keep the engine running. We might need to move fast. But Tyler was already moving. The intercom went quiet as he unbuckled, climbed out of the driver's station, made his way through the tank's cramped interior to the turret. He dropped down into the fighting compartment. His boots landed in blood, Emma's, Brennan's. The floor was slick with it. He saw Brennan slumped against the ammunition rack, saw the gray pallor of his skin, saw the blood soaking through his uniform, saw his father dying. No, Dad, no. The word came without thought. Dad. The first time Tyler had spoken it out loud. The acknowledgement he'd been unable to give for 8 weeks. And now it was too late. Brennan's eyes focused on Tyler. He smiled despite the pain, despite death creeping closer with every heartbeat. Took you long enough to call me that. Don't joke. Not now. Stay with me. We'll get you help. We'll fix this. We'll get you to a hospital. Can't fix cancer, son. Can't fix a body that's been dying for months anyway. This was always how it ends. Just happened faster than I expected. Than any of us expected. Tyler dropped to his knees beside Brennan, his hands pressed against his father's chest, trying to stop bleeding that couldn't be stopped, trying to hold together a life that was already slipping away. I'm not ready. I'm not ready to lose you. I just found you. We've only had 8 weeks. It's not enough. It's not fair. Life rarely is, but we got 8 weeks. That's 8 more than we had before. 8 weeks of being a crew, of being father and son, of learning each other. Some people never get that. We're lucky. Lucky? You're dying. I was already dying, but now I'm dying having done something that matters, having saved lives, having been a father to you, however briefly. That's not a bad way to go. Morrison keyed the radio, his voice professional despite the emotion. Any station, this is Charlie 2-6, urgent medevac request, 2 critical casualties. Grid coordinates follow. He rattled off their position, his voice steady, doing the job even as his world fell apart. Anderson's voice responded immediately, also professional, also barely holding together. Charlie 2-6, this is Leopold 1 on ground. We have casualties also. Medevac is inbound. ETA 5 minutes. Can you hold? Morrison looked at Brennan, at the blood, at the fading light in his commander's eyes. We're holding, but expedite, please. Copy. Medevac is pushing max speed. 5 minutes. An eternity. A heartbeat, depending on perspective. Brennan could feel his pulse weakening, could feel the cold creeping up from his extremities, could feel the darkness at the edges of his vision growing. 5 minutes was too long. He had things to say, things Tyler needed to hear, things that couldn't wait for letters and funeral eulogies. He gripped Tyler's hand. The gesture took effort. His strength was fading fast. Listen to me. Listen carefully. I need you to understand something. Tyler leaned closer, tears streaming down his face. I'm listening. You are not the mistake I made. Kosovo was the mistake. Leaving your mother was the mistake. Not coming back when I learned about you was the mistake. But you were never a mistake. You are the best thing that came from my worst choices. Dad, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Because time is short and these words matter. You were wanted by your mother, by me. Once I knew you existed. You are brilliant and brave and stronger than you know. You charged Russian tanks today, saved this crew, saved lives. That's who you are. Not some abandoned kid, not some shameful secret. You're Tyler Brennan, my son. Be proud of that. Tyler's shoulders shook with sobs. I don't know how to be your son. I don't know how to do any of this. You're already doing it. Being here, forgiving me, fighting beside me. That's all being a son requires. The rest we would have figured out together if we'd had more time. He reached into his pocket with trembling fingers, pulled out 2 envelopes, both sealed, both addressed in his handwriting. For you. One to read now. One to read when you're ready, when the anger comes back, when the grief gets heavy, when you need to hear my voice again. Tyler took the envelopes with shaking hands. What do they say? Everything I should have told you sooner. Everything a father wants his son to know. Read them when you need them. They'll be there. Emma stirred, consciousness returning through the fog of pain and medication. She saw Brennan, saw the situation. Understanding dawned in her eyes. Sir, Captain, no, you can't. We need you. You don't need me anymore. You're a warrior, Emma. Your father's daughter. You fought with honor today. Saved lives. Kept faith with his memory. He would be so proud of you. But what about your promise to him? To watch over me? I kept it. Best I could, but now you watch over each other. You and Morrison and Tyler. You're a crew, a family. You'll be okay." Morrison gripped Brennan's shoulder. The gesture was gentle, reverent. "Sir, it's been an honor serving under you." "The honor was mine, Sergeant. You're a good man, a good soldier. Don't let the demons win. Don't let Fallujah define you. You're more than your mistakes, more than your regrets. Be there for your daughter. Be the father you wish you'd had." "I will, I promise." "And take care of Tyler and Emma. They're your crew now, your responsibility. Make them better. Make them whole." "I will." The sound of helicopter rotors grew louder. Approaching fast, the medevac was close. But Brennan could feel himself fading faster. His heartbeat was irregular, weak, his breathing shallow. The end was measured in heartbeats now. He looked at Tyler one more time, memorizing his son's face, trying to carry it with him wherever he was going. "Tyler, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Live fully. Love completely. Don't run from hard things. Face them head on. You're stronger than I ever was. Braver. Better. Be the man your mother believed you could be. Be the man I see when I look at you. I'm not strong. I'm terrified. I don't know how to do this without you. You do it one day at a time, one choice at a time. You lean on Morrison and Emma. You let Sarah and Amanda and Michael help you. You build the family I never gave you. You live the life I never could." Tyler pressed his forehead against Brennan's. Father and son, connected for the first and last time. "I forgive you. I need you to know that. I forgive you for everything." The words were a gift. Grace Brennan didn't deserve but accepted with his whole heart. "Thank you. That's all I wanted, all I needed. To know you forgave me, to know you'll be okay, to know I mattered, however briefly, in your life. You mattered. You still matter. You'll always matter." The helicopter touched down outside. Medics jumped out, running with stretchers and medical gear, shouting to each other, professional, efficient. But they were seconds too late. Brennan's eyes were closing. The darkness was complete now, overwhelming. The pain was fading. Everything was fading. Except one truth. He had been a father. For 8 weeks. For one final mission, for the time that mattered most. He had given Tyler answers. Had given him family. Had given him the thing Brennan himself had never had. The knowledge that he was wanted, loved, valued. It was enough. His vision narrowed to just Tyler's face. His son, his legacy, his redemption. His last words were whisper quiet, barely audible over the helicopter, rotors, and the distant sounds of battle. "I'm proud of you, son, so proud. Your mother would be proud too. Live well. Be happy. That's all a father can ask." Tyler's tears fell on Brennan's face. "I love you, Dad. I love you." Brennan smiled, the smallest movement, the greatest joy. "I love you too." Then his eyes closed. His breathing stopped. His heart beat one final time and was still. Captain Marcus Brennan died at 1547 local time, on a battlefield in Latvia, in his son's arms, having saved his crew, having completed his mission, having been at the very end exactly what he needed to be. A father. The medics worked on him for 23 minutes, trying every protocol, every procedure, trying to bring him back from where he'd gone. But there was no bringing him back. The cancer, the internal injuries, the simple fact that his body had endured more than it could survive. He was gone. Tyler held him the entire time, refusing to let go, refusing to accept what he knew was true. Morrison finally pulled him away, gently, firmly. "He's gone, Tyler, he's gone." Tyler collapsed against Morrison, sobbing, the grief overwhelming everything else. Emma watched from her stretcher, tears streaming down her own face. She had lost her father 20 years ago, knew the pain Tyler was feeling, knew it would never fully heal. The medics loaded Brennan's body onto a stretcher, covered him with a blanket, treated him with the dignity he'd earned. Tyler watched them carry his father away. 8 weeks. That's all they'd had. 8 weeks to build a relationship that should have had a lifetime. But in those 8 weeks, everything had changed. Tyler had found a father, had learned to forgive, had become part of a family. And Brennan had found redemption, had given his son what he needed most, had died knowing he'd made something right in a life full of mistakes. Morrison put his arm around Tyler's shoulders. He was a good man, a good commander, a good father in the end. "I know. He loved you. Even before he met you, he loved you." "I know that too now," Emma called out from her stretcher. "Tyler, he gave you something most people never get. The chance to say goodbye, to say I love you, to forgive and be forgiven. Hold on to that. It's a gift. It's, Tyler nodded, unable to speak, unable to process everything crushing down on him. But he clutched the envelopes Brennan had given him, would read them later, would carry his father's words with him for the rest of his life. The battle continued in the distance. Russian forces eventually pulled back. The line held. Civilian evacuation completed. NATO reinforcements arrived. The mission was a success, but the cost was high. 17 NATO soldiers died that day. Captain Marcus Brennan among them. 38 wounded, equipment destroyed, lives shattered. But the line held. And in the end, that's what mattered. That's what they had all fought for. That's what Brennan had died for. The line. He died on a battlefield in Latvia, surrounded by the crew he had forged, having completed the mission, having saved the flank, having been at the end exactly what he needed to be. A father, a commander, a soldier who held the line. 3 months later, Fort Hood held the memorial service. The parade ground was filled with soldiers in dress uniforms, civilians in black, media cameras recording for history, full military honors. The honor guard moved with precision, flag-draped coffin carried by 6 soldiers, the same coffin that had traveled from Latvia to Germany to Dover Air Force Base to finally here, home. 21-gun salute, 7 riflemen, 3 volleys. The sound echoed across the parade ground. Sharp, final, each shot a punctuation mark on a life of service. Taps played as the sun set over Texas. The bugler stood alone on a platform. The mournful notes drifted across the assembled mourners. Soldiers saluted. Civilians placed hands over hearts. Tears fell. Sarah stood at the front, flanked by Amanda and Michael, composed, dignified, the strength that had sustained her through 34 years of military marriage, holding her upright one more time. She wore black, simple, elegant, no jewelry except her wedding ring, the ring Marcus had placed on her finger 3 decades ago, the ring she had never removed despite everything. Amanda stood to her right, Air Force Major, in dress blues, her father's daughter in bearing and strength. She had cried privately. Now her face was stone. Professional, the military mask that hid grief from the world. Michael stood to Sarah's left, in a dark suit, civilian clothes but military bearing. He had fought his grief with anger first, had raged at his father for dying over there instead of here. But time and Sarah's wisdom had gentled it to acceptance, to understanding that Marcus had died exactly as he'd lived, serving, giving, trying to make broken things whole. Tyler stood with them, part of the family now, wearing staff sergeant stripes on his dress uniform. The promotion had come through 2 weeks after Brennan's death, recognition of his actions in Latvia, of his courage under fire. Staff Sergeant Marius Morrison stood beside Tyler, also in dress blues, also decorated for Latvia, Bronze Star with Valor, the medal pinned to his chest by a general who had no idea what it cost Morrison to wear it. Emma was there too, on crutches still, but healing. Specialist Chen had become Sergeant Chen in a battlefield promotion, had received her own Bronze Star, her own recognition for valor that had nearly cost her life. The 3 of them formed their own unit, Charlie 26's surviving crew, bound by combat, by loss, by the man they had all loved in different ways. The chaplain spoke words about duty and sacrifice, about a man who had served his country for 36 years, who had deployed to Desert Storm in Iraq and Afghanistan and finally Latvia, who had given everything, including his life. But the words felt hollow to Tyler, generic. They described a soldier, not the man, not the father Tyler had known for 8 brief weeks. When it came time for eulogies, Sarah spoke first. She walked to the podium with her head high, looked out at the assembled crowd, at the soldiers and families and friends who had come to honor her husband. Marcus Brennan was not a perfect man, she began. Her voice was steady, clear, carrying across the silent parade ground. He made mistakes, hurt people he loved, chose duty over family more times than I can count. But he was my man, my husband, the father of my children, and he died trying to be better, trying to fix what he'd broken, trying to give his son the father he deserved. That's who Marcus was, flawed, human, noble in his own broken way. I will miss him every day for the rest of my life. She stepped down. Amanda hugged her. Michael took her arm. They returned to their seats. Amanda spoke next. Her eulogy was shorter, more controlled. The Air Force officer speaking about her father, the soldier, about his dedication, his professionalism, his commitment to excellence. It was true but incomplete, the public face of a private grief. Michael's eulogy was angry, honest, raw in ways that made people uncomfortable. My father was a complicated man. He left too much, stayed away too long, had a secret son none of us knew about until it was almost too late. I spent 3 months being angry about that, about the betrayal, about the lies. But then I met Tyler, my brother, and I realized something. Dad didn't abandon Tyler to hurt us. He didn't know Tyler existed until it was too late. And when he found out, he spent his dying months trying to fix it, trying to be a father. That takes courage, more courage than I have. So I'm choosing to remember that. The courage, the attempt, the fact that he died trying to be better. That's all any of us can do. He sat down, wiped his eyes. Sarah squeezed his hand. Then it was Tyler's turn. He walked to the podium on legs that felt like water, looked out at hundreds of faces, strangers mostly, people who had known Marcus Brennan the soldier, not Marcus Brennan the father. He pulled out a paper, the notes he'd written, then put them away. This needed to come from the heart, not from a script. I met my father 8 weeks before he died, Tyler began. His voice shook, but he pushed through it. 8 weeks, that's all we had. Most people get a lifetime. I got 2 months. But in those 2 months, I learned more about myself than in the previous 22 years. I learned where I came from, who my father was, what courage actually means. Captain Brennan was dying of cancer when he deployed to Latvia. He knew he had months, maybe weeks. He could have stayed home, spent his last days with his wife and his other children, the family he'd built over 30 years. But he came anyway, because he owed me answers, because I deserved a father, however briefly, because some debts can only be paid in person. Tyler's voice broke. He paused, breathed, continued. We fought together in Latvia, saved each other's lives, became a real crew, became father and son, and in the end, he died in my arms. His last words were that he was proud of me, that he loved me. That's a gift most people take for granted, but I never had it before. Never knew what it felt like to have a father say those words. Now I do, and I'll carry them the rest of my life. Captain Marcus Brennan was not a perfect father. He was barely a father at all, but he tried, and he died trying. That's more than a lot of men do, so I'm grateful for the 8 weeks, for the answers, for the chance to say I love you and hear it back. Thank you, Dad, for coming back, for trying, for being my father when it mattered most. He walked back to his seat, tears streaming down his face. Not ashamed, not hiding. Morrison gripped his shoulder. Emma took his hand. Sarah pulled him into a hug. He was proud of you, she whispered. So proud. He told me that in one of his last calls. He said you were everything he'd hoped you'd be, everything he wished he'd been. He was better than he knew, Tyler said. Yes, he was, and so are you. The service concluded. The honor guard folded the flag, 13 folds, each one precise, perfect. The triangle presented to Sarah. She accepted it with dignity, held it like she'd held Marcus's memory, with love, with pain, with acceptance. The crowd dispersed. Soldiers returned to duty. Families went home. Life continued despite the hole left by one man's death. But Charlie 26's crew remained, gathered around the grave as workers began to fill it. As Marcus Brennan was laid to rest beside other soldiers, other warriors, other men who had given everything, Morrison spoke first. I'm going to sponsor a PTSD support group for veterans, for guys like me who are struggling. Captain Brennan told me to be there for my daughter, to be the father I wish I'd had, but I can also be there for others, help them the way he helped me. That's good, Emma said. He'd like that. What about you? Morrison asked her. What's next? OCS, Officer Candidate School. I applied last week, was accepted yesterday. I'm going to be a tank officer, like my father, like Captain Brennan, going to lead soldiers the way they led me. They'd both be proud. I know. They looked at Tyler, waiting. He stared at the grave, at the freshly turned earth, at the temporary marker that would eventually be replaced with a headstone. I don't know yet, he admitted. I'm still figuring out who I am, who I want to be, but I know I want to honor him. Honor what he tried to teach me. Live fully, love completely, don't run from hard things. That's what he said. That's what I'll try to do. You staying in the army? Morrison asked. Yeah, for now. It's the only family I've really known besides you two, besides Sarah and Amanda and Michael. I need that, need the structure, the purpose. Then we'll be there, checking on you, making sure you're okay. I know, we're a crew. That doesn't end just because he's gone. No, it doesn't. They stood in silence. 3 soldiers, 3 survivors, 3 people bound by the man in the grave. Finally, as the sun touched the horizon, they saluted. The military courtesy for the dead. The final respect. Then they walked away together. Not alone, never alone again. Sarah watched them from a distance, saw the bond between them, saw how Marcus had forged them into something stronger than they'd been individually. He did it, she said to Amanda. He built them into a family, into something that will last beyond him. He did, Amanda agreed. Took him dying to do it, but he did. That was always his way, waiting until the last possible moment, then doing what needed to be done. They walked to the parking lot. Michael drove them home. To the house Marcus would never enter again. To the life Sarah would have to rebuild without him. But she wasn't alone. Had her children. Had Tyler now too. Had a family that was bigger and more complicated than before. But also stronger, more honest. Marcus's death had broken them open. But it had also allowed healing to begin. Allowed truth to replace secrets. Allowed forgiveness to replace anger. It wasn't the ending Sarah had wanted, but it was the ending they had, and she would make it mean something. That night, Tyler sat in his barracks room, alone. He pulled out the 2 envelopes Brennan had given him in the tank. Had read the first one 100 times already. Now he opened the second, the one meant for later, for when the grief was heavy. The letter was longer, more detailed, Marcus's handwriting filling 3 pages. Tyler, if you're reading this, enough time has passed that the anger might be returning, the grief getting heavy, the questions multiplying. So let me answer what I can. Your mother was the kindest person I ever met. She saw good in everyone, including me when I didn't deserve it. We had 3 months together, 3 months of forgetting I had a wife back home, of pretending I could be someone I wasn't. When it ended, she didn't cry, didn't beg me to stay, just smiled and said she understood. I learned years later she was already pregnant, already carrying you, and she never told me, never asked for anything, just raised you alone until she couldn't anymore. That's courage I'll never have. That's love I'll never match. You come from her, her strength, her grace, her ability to forgive the unforgivable. I see her in you every time you smile, every time you show mercy, every time you choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Be proud of that, be proud of her, and know that I loved her. However briefly, however imperfectly, I loved her, and I love you, your father, Marcus. Tyler folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, added it to the box where he kept everything from his mother. Her photos, her letters, the small items that were all he had left of her. Now he had letters from his father too, words that would outlast the man who wrote them. It wasn't enough, would never be enough, but it was what he had, and he would make it enough. Would live the life his father told him to live, would be brave like his mother, would honor them both by being the man they believed he could be. Outside, the base was quiet, soldiers sleeping, preparing for another day of service, the eternal rhythm of military life. Tyler lay in his bunk, closed his eyes, and for the first time since Brennan died, he slept without nightmares. Because he wasn't alone, would never be alone again. He had family, had crew, had a father's love even though the father was gone. And that was enough. It had to be enough, because it was all any of them had. The weight of stars pressed down through the barrack ceiling, but Tyler felt lighter than he had in months. His father had held the line, had taught him how, had given him the tools to do the same. Now it was Tyler's turn, to live, to serve, to hold the line when it mattered. For himself, for his crew, for the father who had tried. The line would hold. It always did, because somewhere someone chose to stand. And Tyler Brennan chose to stand, just like his father before him. The legacy continued. The iron held, and morning came gentle over Texas, bringing with it the promise of another day, another chance, another line to hold,